and let us all do we can to build a better future.
All right, we're going to start out with some very disturbing stories coming out of South Carolina. I've been talking about the effects, shall we say, of the demise of Roe versus Wade, which could have been codified over a period of half a century, but nobody got around to doing it, largely because it was too good of a fundraiser.
Yeah, look, we'll get to it later. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We'll just kick the can down the road. What could possibly go wrong?
So apparently what's going on, essentially, South Carolina Senate has introduced a new bill. This has not been passed. This is a bill that has been introduced that could block internet users from talking about abortion truthfully online. And essentially, according to this article in Ars Technica, and by the way, check out the show notes beneath this video and just click on it. That is a link to the Substack newsletter for Civically Minded. It has all of our sources so you can follow along and do your own research. Also, if you subscribe, you'll get a notification even if a certain video platform does not give you a notification of the show.
What video platform could that be?
Yeah, but you'll be able to get that afternoon as a reminder. Essentially, what the bill would do is it would restrict providing information to a pregnant woman or someone seeking information on behalf of a pregnant woman by telephone, internet, or any other mode of communication. And essentially would say that if you give information about abortion referral services, information about procuring an abortion, or hosting or maintaining websites that are purposefully directed to pregnant women in South Carolina that support abortion rights. Now, again, this is just a bill that has been proposed. It has not been passed, and it certainly hasn't gone through the court process where it could, of course, be found to be totally unconstitutional. But as you see here, this is just one of the effects of the demise of Roe versus Wade, that now even providing information online, and this is by telephone or internet or any other mode of communication. So we can get into this, but there's something else that has also happened. Part of the bill also, and this is from the National Law Review, would also create penalties for whistleblowers. To say, for example, would actually penalties for anybody who tries to interfere with a whistleblower. So if you have a whistleblower, and normally I support whistleblowers' rights, but what this would be is that if somebody was trying to turn in a doctor or, say, a website writer or owner who they believe is helping a woman to procure an abortion, they could do this and this would be allowed. But if somebody tries to interfere with the whistleblower, that individual who tries to interfere with the anti-abortion whistleblower could face up to 10 years in prison. And the idea being, let's say, I'll just give an example here. Let's say you have a web host provider and they pass one of the stupid law that says you can't have information, you can't be sharing information about abortion in South Carolina online. And let's say a web host provider says, well, a website or an ISP owner says, look, we're not going to cooperate with this, and if you're giving private information about our customers to government officials or law enforcement, you're going to be fired. That person could be charged with a crime simply by wanting to set policy within their own private organization. So this is getting to be Kafkaesque as far as I am concerned. Another good reason, though, why I very strongly support legacy media. Because it's one thing if you have a monopoly on internet access, where you've got the major cable companies that control the internet access and that can take down websites and censor speech. It's quite another if you've got, say, a radio station or a television station where you've got broadcast airwaves and anybody with an antenna can pull in that signal. Anybody can print a newspaper or a magazine, unless they're going to start trying to tell and then curtail genuine freedom of the press, and I mean that quite literally, the printing press, trying to control information from getting to people in South Carolina is going to be a lot harder if we have a robust legacy media, which includes newspapers, magazines, newsletters, books, TV and radio. It's going to be a lot harder to control that. Again, I don't think that this kind of bill is going to pass muster because it really is restricting freedom of speech, but it is the kind of mentality that we are seeing right now post Roe versus Wade.
All right, so there's a couple things I want to say, and they're somewhat connected to this story. But again, Democrats, fantastic job of not seeing the bigger picture. Fantastic job just for being blinded by the money. And vote blue no matter who. And you remember, even though a lot of you gave $80 million to the Democrats as they fundraised off the Supreme Court, reversing Roe v. Wade, just remember, the Democratic Party under Carter, Clinton, Obama especially, and Biden, even though he's a senile old bat, they could have possibly, again, most likely, could have, if they really wanted to, codified Roe v. Wade. But no. Instead, what they decided to do is play political football with a very important issue about women's reproductive health and their own rights of what they want to do with their body. Now, to the people of the good state of South Carolina, even if you're a diehard conservative Republican, there's no way in good conscience you can actually really think that this is a good idea because this is limiting freedom of speech. Now, the internet is a useful tool. We all use it. It's part of our social lives. Whether you like it or not, it is here to stay. It is part of our livelihood. In what world do you think it's a right idea to then dictate what a state or federal government can dictate to its people what you can and cannot see online, what you're not allowed to look for? The internet is open for information for all right? And now that South Carolina, he has some jagoff lawmakers deciding, oh, this is a good idea. What could possibly go wrong? Well, now you make room for anything and everything to be put on the same kind of standard what they're doing for
if you
anyone.
Think something is harmful or immoral,
yeah,
you can go right ahead and censor it and make it. And not only can you try to censor it, you can actually criminalize the owners of private businesses who are trying to meet their own standards within their companies. I mean, at this point, they're criminalizing. They're criminalizing multiple actions here. They're criminalizing speech, and they are then criminalizing those who are trying to stop that criminalization of speech or are refusing to cooperate. So it's just a whole lot of criminalization in these bills.
Well done, South Carolina lawmakers. And again, if you're a voter, I'm talking directly to anyone who lives in the state of South Carolina. This bill right here should frighten you because, again, this shows how politicians don't like you, don't think about you, and don't respect you, both Democrat and Republican. But see, here's the one little ace in your hole that you got, voters of South Carolina. Your state lawmakers are more accessible to talk to than your federal lawmakers. Now, you can actually, as voters, as responsible citizens, can actually confront your lawmakers. Tell them you don't want this bill passed because, again, it's a very controversial issue. And the thing is, when you start limiting speech on one subject, you open it for every single subject. And how many other states will then follow through? Then can the United States really say it's a bastion of free speech? Free media? No. This is something you see in a Soviet dictatorship. This is what you see in a fascist dictatorship. This is what you see in someone who has absolute power and complete disregard for the people. Now, this is why we have legacy media. Again, we're very happy with what Lainey Peterson is doing for World Perspectives Radio Chicago. This is why we have our 2 TV shows on Chicago on Can TV. We got Chicago Corner, and then we have Hard Lens Media that's also on Can TV as well. Because let's face it, what YouTube is doing for free speech and independent media is downright distasteful. But South Carolina, its own government is proposing a bill about restricting searches for abortion. What else will be put on the chopping block? What other state will follow through and think, this is a good idea? Is this something we really want? As voters, as responsible citizens, we should all be upset about it. But then again, I call into question a lot of these activists that said that they'd go on the streets if Roe v. Wade was overturned. Where are you? Where are you at? There were legions of you during the Trump administration. There were legions of people protesting in front of Trump Tower, especially here in Chicago across the river, even though Trump doesn't own the goddamn building. Where are you? Where's that big women's march? Where are you? Where are you? Was it all talk? I guess it was. So, brilliant job of not showing up, because now you got something like this happening in South Carolina. Where are you? Any other country, you know, the regular citizens would have been protesting and showing you how it's done. Laney, what's the final word?
The final word is Pandora's box. And what I want to remind everybody at this point, and I'm sorry to say it, but the one thing that got trapped in that box was hope.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing a lot of hope out here. I think there was a time when hope, the audacity of hope,
The audacity of hope.
that opportunity might have been there,
I think,
and it's not.
I think this YouTube super chat that we got from Mahmoud Randi is a perfect final note. Mahmoud Radi, again, if I'm saying your name wrong, please let me know. $5. Will somebody tell the Ayatollahs in South Carolina that the Constitution is not a suggestion?
One could wonder. And one, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, no form of communication. Does that mean that if somebody is, does that mean, are you going to pull obstetrics and gynecology textbooks
I guess so.
out of libraries? Does that mean that if a med student is talking to their professor about these matters on the phone? I mean, think about this. Think about, this is the mentality at this point that we're seeing in this country right now. And guess what? The very second you bring this up, you're going to get a whole lot of whataboutism.
That's a good note to end it on, Laney.
It is.